I, of course, am Jack Corpella from Racing Jack and Cycle Drag. This is my good buddy, Trevor Hawking, a true television professional, a true motorsports professional. And Trevor, right out of the gate, what I got to say is thank you for being on the
Yeah.
vertical live that we did from the pits of AT&T Stadium 2 days ago. You're kind of the one that inspired this. So sorry for throwing you into this mix, but thank you.
Yeah, no, the thanks goes out to everyone, right? We're going to be talking about new media today, right? Where is it going? Where is it heading? But yeah, reflecting on going to Supercross and taking a look at the audience that not only you have built with Cycle Drag, but Racing Jack, and going back to, my old days of legacy media and dealing with that, it's just changed, right? And the accessibility that we have now to be live like this together. I mean, man, if you're a producer, you're a content creator, as they call it now. My old days, I was a producer, right? And I think that's the new name now for producers is content creators. So yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited. Hopefully we can keep people entertained a little bit today on a Sunday.
No, absolutely. I could talk to you for about 5, 6 hours. We'll just keep this one brief. This one will be a preview. But one thing I want to ask you about that you were able to do last year that was really, really special is you got to produce not only the live stream for the Two Stroke Nationals, but also the Vet Nationals at Glen Helen. And you also did something amazing that you took that live stream and you were able to get it on MAV TV. Talk to me a little bit about that experience and how you were able to bring that stream to TV.
Yeah, so you're talking about Dirt Bike Magazine and Motocross Action. I work for a company called High Torque, 44-year-old company, dealt with print, web, social media, all of it. They really have dealt with the whole breadth of media all the way into what we're calling now new media. So yeah, they gave us an opportunity, they being Glenn Helen, gave us an opportunity to help them not only produce it, but to market it as well too. And one thing we're really proud of at Motocross Action Dirt Bike is the viewership. I was shocked when I saw literally like 300,000 views, right, on a live stream with a retention of over 3 hours. In the regular world of broadcast television, for those who don't know, the ratings for motocross, on NBC back in the day when we did it for Lucas Oil, it was 300,000 they're looking for an average view. So in today's world, that just shocked and opened my eyes up to like, wow, this is no joke. This is real. This is a place that people are coming to. But I think the catch to all this, really, in Corpella, you're really big to speak on this, is the brand that goes with that on that channel, right? So yeah, the Two Stroke Nationals, huge race, huge following, huge brand, but we were really pleasantly surprised by the World Vet Nationals. And for those who don't know, it's a little less popular of an event, but a little more worldly, right? So it has more racers from around the globe that will come and race, and that viewership is already over 130,000 views, right? Large retention. So as you mentioned, we could talk about this forever, but for me, the shock of it was how close it now correlates to their traditional television, right?
Well said. And I see some people are joining us. So, guys, do me a favor. Can you hear us okay? Let me know below in the comments. Normally, Trevor is my expert moderator. Unfortunately, I got him tied up here in an interview, so he's not going to be able to do that. But what we're talking about is we're talking about streaming, we're talking about television, we're talking about what's going on at Glen Helen and how things have changed. Hey, Jay Ripper. Can you hear us, Jay Ripper? He was on yesterday. Okay. Somebody said I got whoops on my head too. They're talking about my aging marks. I'm like, come on, man. I'm trying to lay off the Botox here and go au naturel. But for those of you who do not know how I met Trevor, we worked together at Lucas Oil Production Studios, the great Forrest Lucas, Morgan Lucas, Bob Pattison. They built this amazing television place that Trevor was involved in the creation of it. I was just lucky to come in last couple years. Trevor, you being there at the genesis of what was this big television motorsports mecca and seeing where we're at now as TV's kind of downshifting and streaming seems to be where it's at. How would you assess where we've come?
Yeah, I'm going to take you even further back, right? And I'm not going to tell the whole story, but kind of close. My dad started producing television in 1985, hanging out a helicopter shooting the Baja 1000, right? And then we moved into the corporate space of doing, commercials for UPS and Burlington Coat Factory. And then on came this really small company called Lucas Oil out of Corona. We started doing the first commercials for them back in 1995, I believe. And from there, that company grew and so did their marketing efforts. And what Forrest was, really genius about was taking his marketing efforts and branding and marketing himself, right? I believe even before Red Bull, he was one of the first people to create his own studio. So in 2006, he ended up purchasing my father's company and myself and my mom. And a lot of things at Lucas Oil, a lot of corporate things, it's family, right? So my family, we jumped on in and we built and helped build a whole TV studio. So from there, we really right came on to the moment when HD was coming around, right? So that was one of the big changing points in television at the time was high definition. And for those who don't know, Lucas Oil was one of the first people to ever put high definition motorsports television on TV, including GoPros. So we really saw, standard editing turn into nonlinear editing that turned into where your content is getting distributed. And that's right when early 2000s YouTube just started really popping up. So as we were chasing linear television, we purchased our own network, MAV TV, and created and built all that internally. And then from that, really started dealing with the over the top stuff. And for those who don't know, that's like when you get to a Roku TV and you could see a lot of, networks that are putting out that product. And we created Lucas Oil Racing TV, but it was a subscriber base. There was paywalls involved, right? And a lot of that for people don't know, it sounds like a negative thing, but when you're dealing with the cost of production, you really have to figure out, how to not only monetize it, but what we were looking for is break even, right? We necessarily didn't care about at the point creating a profit. We were into the marketing side of it. And that kind of correlates what's happening a lot today in media. But long story longer here, as we kept digging through the world of where do we put our content, right? CBS Sports Network. Way back when we first started, it was actually I can't remember what NBC Sports was first called. Was it what was the name of that? Do you remember what they called that before?
Gosh, you got me thinking now. I
And,
mean, the
and
new
as
version is Peacock. We know that. What was the early version of NBC Sports? That is interesting. There were so many motorsports networks that were coming off between the
versus
outdoor net versus that was
versus
major hockey network, right?
Yeah, so you remembered it, right? So
Yes.
we were right in the mix of what I believe we're in the mix of now, right? Media is constantly changing, and if you look at like the radio to television, right, and then it goes on, right? What's happening today and what we were going through were complete rebanding. Every network was trying to figure out what we had, and at that time, Speed Network was everything. So we were a lot of our content was going to Speed, ESPN, CBS Sports Network spun off. Then you had Versus turned into NBC Sports Network, and all that's still happening. Remember when Speed went away, turned to FS1, which now is Fox. So as like I said, talk about this forever. People that are saying like things are changing now, things have always been changing in the space of media, right? So as we're all trying to grasp upon that, this is where we sit now. I believe now the days of the maybe corporate America or the networks being in charge of distribution of media, it's now us, right? The producers and the content creators. Look at us. We could turn it on live now, pop in an audience, and really, find your niche, if you will, kind of like you have. I mean, what you've done in the short, what has it been since you left the studio? 3 years that you've really been building your platform.
Thanks, man. I've been trying. I just been hitting the ground running, surviving. You were a big part of it. You were inspiration. The only complaint I have about you is I think you gave me the kiss of death because I show up to beautiful Lucas Oil Studios, love it. I had the pleasure of being in the boss's office one time. Bob Pattison, great guy. And I remember you came over and gave me a pat on the back. You said, "Good job, kid. You're going to be here a long time." And then here comes COVID. Nobody knew about COVID, so they shut down the studio. Buildings for sale. Unfortunately, we didn't have the run that we wanted there, but what we have now is all these opportunities with streaming. So everybody watching right now, I think you're with me when you say we love YouTube, don't we? This is where it's really at. And do me a favor, double tap the video to give it a like because we had over 100 people watching at one time. I want to see some likes getting driven up. But really, what I want to ask you about on this side, Trevor, is a lot of people are wondering about what's going on with Glenn Helen and Bud and Lori and the
Yeah.
whole team. They're all in with this streaming game, and I think they're really ahead of the curve with what they're doing with their events. And this year, I don't know if this is official yet. You could probably tell us, but we believe 3 big races streamed at Glen Helen. Last year was the Vet Nationals and the Two-Stroke Nationals, and I think we got more on the horizon this year. So why don't you tell me a little bit about it?
Yeah, it is exciting, right? And I say exciting because we all know and remember Glenn Helen. My dad worked the Nationals at motocross when Lucas Oil was doing that. It's hard not to see racing there, including short course. See, my background, you guys see my Crandon shirt on. I'm a short course guy. I produced short course for over 15 years. And yeah, Glen Helen is really taking an effort, Bud and Lori and the whole team down there, of bringing more moto to Glen Helen, specifically a new event that's going to be called Moto Fest. And it is tied with a Troy Lee. Troy Lee Designs is going to help get money to privateers. So no pro racers. It's going to go along during the same time when they do the stopwatch nationals. And I think they're also going to have some hair scrambles and TTs to go with it. But more importantly, this race will be a place to really truly help a privateer. And they're going to have, I believe, Doug Dubach and Josh Mosman from MXA are on a board to help kind of really pick who those true privateers are, right? Because that's kind of the big debate here is in the world of motocross, as we see teams change and people lose sponsorship, it is how do we distribute that money? And I say we because I think we're all part of that same community, right? Whether it be Glen Helen, whether it be High Torque, production companies. So yeah, it is. It's exciting to see tracks and people like Bud really wanting to put not only the dollars just to produce television, because as you know, people that don't know, it's not just a cell phone on like we're doing here, right? This is a full crew of people, multiple cameras, and as you see these live streams are getting far more elaborate, right? And that's where I'd like to give a shout out to Ross Fitz Production, Aaron Kennard, and the whole team that really do not only the Glen Helen shows, but they work with you at NGPC. And man, tell me about that, dude. NGPC has been growing, dude. Lots of drones. It looks great.
Well, it's really cool to see. And Craig Hunter and team, they really exemplify the type of person I'm describing when I say people that are all in and love YouTube. They want their series to get exposure, and they have stayed the course with this streaming game, and they just keep getting better. And it's very, very difficult because it reminds me a little bit of GNCC, where Davey Coombs himself told me one time it's really hard to tell a story when you see the leader and then he disappears for 6 miles and comes back. It's the same thing we ran into with Best in the Desert. Not everybody has the luxury of being up high at Daytona International Speedway watching the entire racetrack the whole time. So to tell stories, good linear stories, is hard to do, but they're doing a great job with NGPC. And I think what they're seeing now is with the growth in views, with the growth in exposure, it's making it easier for Craig Hunter when he knocks on the doors of those factories in Southern California and tries to get some support. And what we've seen this year, Mitch Payton and his pro circuit team are out there with Giacomo Redondi. Beta has stepped up big, official motorcycle of NGPC, and Kawasaki, I believe, came on heavier. And that's what you want to see. And Trevor, you know this as a marketing guy. You can have a beautiful production, but at some point, these people are looking for exposure, views, and advertising for their products.
Yeah, and that is right. Us as there goes my
That's
cell phone.
okay. Don't worry about it.
We're all here. But that's it, right? That's kind of the big quandary, right? Is how do we get these funded, right? And I say funded because most people think us like marketing guys, we're not trying to make a buck here, and we are, but we're not. We're really trying to get exposure and cover the cost of marketing for our sponsors, right? That's what it is. We're trying to put their money to the right place to get as much exposure as possible. That's really what a producer's job is. So when you look at this, we're looking for endemic sponsors, but I think the key to it really is to find companies that may not be endemic, right? Because what we're finding motocross industry is tough right now, right? I mean, a lot of sponsors are finding hardships still coming. You mentioned COVID, coming out of COVID and still dealing with, the repercussions of that. So I think in today's space, when you're dealing with dollars and sponsorship, a lot of it really comes down into passion projects, right? So I do a summit with a gentleman by the name of Alex Stradler. For those who haven't seen it, it is sponsorshipsummits.com. It's really a wonderful place for if you're a racer or anybody inside of marketing to get the kind of tone of the industry right now. And the tone of the industry is bleak isn't the right word. I mean, we're coming out of bleak, right? I feel that uphill, that climb is kind of getting to a plateau now where we're finding a spot that people want to not only advertise in motorsports, but they actually want it broadcast more, right? And but what they're looking at is they're looking at how they're broadcasting. So you bring up Best in the Desert, right? So desert racing and short course and off-road was my heart. So we spent a lot of time and a lot of money with helicopters, big helicopters, and RF signals and all of that. So today's technology, though, if you look at the streaming technology, what's happening with Starlink and Stream Pros and these kits that now can take stuff like GNCC. I just watched GNCC the other day, albeit when you go through the woods, it's hard to see the drone shots because they're really falling, but they got them. You can literally follow a guy for the most part live through these events. So again, to take it back, like you can hear the tone of my voice. It's excitement, right? And that tone and that voice of excitement for me, as a broadcast content creator, is accessibility, right? And we have the ultimate accessibility, right? It's just now what we're working on together is growing the audience, right? Growing the network. So I think that word network has really changed, right? Yeah.
Yeah, no, 100%, 1000%. And Trevor, I told you I wasn't going to tie you up too long here. I think we might pop over to Cycle Drag. Actually, if you guys want to join us, if Trevor's got a few more minutes,
Oh
I'd
yeah.
like to get him on Cycle Drag. But before we go, everybody watching, we'll get to some of the comments. Thomas says Enduro. PA Joe says I enjoyed Any Sunday. What a film. Thank you, PA Joe. Make sure to double tap this video, guys, to give it a like. And finally, Trevor, I want to throw this out there. If any advertisers, anybody wants to get involved with any of the events at Glen Helen, you can help facilitate that. So what would be a good way for people to reach out to you if there's a goggle company, if there's a tire company, et cetera, if there's a team that wants to be involved, what's the best way to reach out to you?
Yeah, it's Trevor H at hightorque.com. I'm also on Instagram, Trevor underscore Hocking, HOCK.com. So, we're out there. I'm at most races too. If you ever see me, don't be afraid just to say hi. And again, it's an exciting time trying to figure out how we're going to make all this work because so much has changed, right? So, but as we talk about media, it really comes down for me, stuff that we have passion for. So, yeah, thanks for having me on here. I think it's really cool. First time on, I know people are telling me stop nodding my head. As you know, guys,
It could
I'm
have
not
been
a
you or me.
no, it's
All right.
okay. I'm not a guy that gets in front of cameras. I'm a behind the camera guy, right? I'm Alfred, right? I'm the guy that's going to be sitting there, working on the computers. But in today's age, that's kind of what you have to do now, right? You have to put yourself out there. You have to create the brand, right? That's what this is about.
Well, like I said, I have learned to thicken up my skin a lot. And Paul Tuttle, who I'm going to see this week, really taught me that because I post a picture of Paul Tuttle on Facebook. It'll get 5 million negative comments. And then I see him in person and everybody says, "Sir, can I have your autograph?" It's just really a reflection of where we're at in society and a reflection of people caring and popularity. So I never take those comments too seriously, but we appreciate any comment, right? Anybody who takes time to actually care about the video, watch the video, leave a comment. That's a good thing.
Yeah, perfect. And again, thanks for having me on here. It's a new world as we get a part to this, and we really do need to really make sure that we appreciate the audience that watches us, albeit, as it grows small or big, you don't know who's watching, right? And that's what we used to always tell everybody else. It only takes one sponsor to watch you as you're doing this to really like what you're doing and help you, pursue this. So again, thanks for having me on, man. This is great.
You got it, man. We'll tell more of this story, guys, over on Cycle Drag. We'll be over on Cycle Drag YouTube in just a little bit. Thanks a lot, Trevor, and thanks for everybody for watching. Look, Thomas coming back with the great guys I want to race. Thank you very much for the positivity, Thomas. I appreciate it. A lot to see on this channel. We got Supercross coverage. Check out the Cooper Webb crash, and then Cooper Webb comes back and wins the race. How awesome was that? We're going to talk a little TV production and maybe drag bikes over on Cycle Drag in a little bit. We'll see you over there, guys. See you over there, T-Hawk.